On the other hand, after the first wave of defeat, the rebel army was utterly defeated and retreated 300 miles away. The two leaders of the rebel army gathered together with dark expressions. Behind them was a large group of people who guarded silently. They all thought that they had the most important information and were filled with confidence. This attack could be said to be the right time, place, and people. They thought that they had the advantage and could not fail no matter what. However, they never expected that not only did they fail, but they also lost so ridiculously. They were simply defeated. Their brothers had suffered heavy losses, and their best heavy artillery had been destroyed by the other party. It was definitely impossible to repair it in a short period of time. General, who would have thought that such a powerful fellow would suddenly appear in the human race? From the feedback from the soldiers at the front line, the fireballs that had originally reached outside their city wall were completely controlled by this person and sent back. Such strength is completely beyond our expectations. The few demon generals who had escaped were still explaining their actions. Only one person came out to speak, and the others naturally followed. "That's right, General. We've never heard of such a thing. It's really unexpected." They had suffered a defeat today and had returned in defeat. They naturally had to strictly reflect on such a major strength. Moreover, Mietian was in a fit of anger and wanted to capture a few people to vent his anger. If they did not speak properly, he would kill all of them who could not speak later. It would be too late to complain then. Therefore, these people who were leading the troops to war rushed forward to complain. Mietai naturally knew these principles. He also knew that if not for the sudden appearance of such a figure in the human race, with the defense ability of that city, they would definitely not be able to withstand this attack. However, he did not expect such a person to be hidden in the human race's wrong city. Where did this person come from? Why had there never been any sources of information? Most importantly, this person's strength had clearly reached the peak level. To be able to chase so many cannons back with a flip of his hand, how powerful was he? At the very least, in the eyes of Mietian, this fellow in front of him could be said to be an extremely powerful enemy. Although their strength had been strengthened, they were only supported by their great lord to the second-grade formation arrangement realm. This was something he had never dared to think about in the past. Since he had taken advantage of the great lord and soared overnight, he naturally had to do things well for him. However, the humans opposite them suddenly had such a powerful fellow. It really made it difficult for them to move. Mietian was very hesitant. He knew the other party's methods. If they stopped moving, he knew what would happen to them. It was really a huge problem. If he had known earlier, he would not have accepted this matter so easily. The reason why he looked so bitter was not because his subordinates were incompetent, but more because he was worried about the current situation. He still had to think of a way. The group of people spoke at once, but they could not get to the point. Seeing that their boss was still frowning and his face was dark, they were all terrified. They looked at each other. They did not know who would be the unlucky one who was chosen by their boss and turned into ashes. Just as they were all thinking, a black-robed man suddenly appeared at the periphery. No one else seemed to have noticed the black-robed man's appearance. Only Mietian's gaze was fixed on the black-robed man, unable to move away. "All of you can leave first." Mietian's sudden order stunned everyone present. Boss had never spoken like this in the past. Why was he so polite today? Could it be that Boss was really so angry that he even wanted to speak to them in such a tone? They did not even dare to think about it. Just as they were hesitating, Mietian suddenly widened his eyes and swept his gaze around. He roared, "I told you to scram. Didn't you hear me? Why are you still standing here?" After being scolded like this, they finally felt relieved. They thought that the general was probably in a daze just now and did not speak properly. Now, this attitude was in line with the general's personal temperament. "General, calm down. We'll get lost now." They ran out obediently. Without the general's orders, they really did not dare to escape. After everyone left, only Mietian and the black-robed man were left in the empty tent. They had retreated from here, but they did not seem to notice the existence of the black-robed man. It was really strange. The black-robed man slowly turned around. The front of his face was completely covered by the drooping hood. His face seemed to be hiding in a dark color, and it was impossible to see what he looked like. However, Mietian knew this man very well. "My lord, there's a reason for today. Let me explain it to you." Mietian anxiously walked up to the black-robed man and wanted to escape punishment. He had originally agreed with this lord that he would definitely be able to produce some results today. However, he did not expect to encounter such resistance. Now that his progress was obstructed, it felt extremely difficult to take down Rong City again. As long as that guy didn't leave, they wouldn't have any chance to take down Rong City no matter what. If this lord used this to pressure them now, he wouldn't be able to do anything. However, Black Robe said to him very understandingly, "It's fine. I know your difficulties." Mietian was already prepared to continue quibbling. How could he get rid of this crime? At the very least, he could not bear the responsibility. If he died for no reason, he would really be wronged. Mietian looked up at Black Robe in front of him. Black Robe was suddenly so considerate that he was at a loss. "Lord Black Robe, what do you mean?" Black Robe continued, "There's a powerful person in the human race, but that's all. This person happened to pass by here and arrived in Rong City just as you were attacking. It can be said to be a coincidence." "There's actually such a thing? Wouldn't we succeed if we delayed a few more days?" "That's hard to say. However, there's another opportunity now. He still has to be busy with the other side. You still have a chance. As long as you can occupy Rong City, it won't be easy for this person to defend Rong City." "You're right." Mietian hurriedly replied, "Rong City is occupied by the remnants of the previous dynasty of the human race. The old people left behind from the previous era and the information and memories they learned are all in their hands. As long as we take down that so-called saintess of the human race, everything about the human race will be in my hands." As Mietian, he laughed loudly. As long as he controlled everything about the human race, he would be the new holy master of the human race. How beautiful was that future! When Mietian thought of this, he could not help but laugh. His gaze on Black Robe became sharp. Black Robe snorted coldly and looked at him disdainfully. "You're quite happy early." When Mietian heard that his lord seemed to be a little unhappy, he hurriedly said, "Lord Black Robe, don't blame me. If I have power, I will definitely follow your lead." "Don't worry, my lord." Black Robe nodded slightly and said proudly, "That's right. I didn't nurture you in vain. I will always remember your nurturing." As a person at the peak of the spirit transformation realm, he would probably never have the chance to come into contact with the formation arrangement realm again in his life. However, he was pulled up by him and reached the second-grade formation arrangement realm. Moreover, he gave him such a powerful weapon and strengthened the entire army. Although his subordinates had become half human and half beast, with their tempers becoming much more irritable than before, although they were very easily angry and ruthless. However, none of this was important. As long as he could grasp the direction of the human race and become the supreme holy master, he would be a supreme being in the catacombs from now on. This was not something that he, the leader of the rebel army, had dared to dream about. Mietian stood in front of Black Robe with lowered brows. Black Robe said to him indifferently, "There's a very good opportunity now, but I wonder if you can seize it." "Sir, please speak. Although I lost this time, it's all because I fell into his trap this time. As long as this kid is not in the city, it will be easy to take down Rong City." Even though a lot of their powerful offensive artillery had been destroyed, now was not the time to cry about being poor. He had to give Lord Black Robe some hope. Otherwise, he would not be able to keep his status. Black Robe looked at him in satisfaction and said, "Do you know what I admire most about you?" "I don't know. I admire your guts the most. You clearly have nothing on you, yet you still dare to bite others. Thank you for your praise. 3 days from now, Sea City will be facing chaos. At that time, Li Yuanqing will have no choice but to leave. I believe he will leave for 3 days. I'm afraid it will take at least 3 days for him to come back. Can you do it in these 3 days?" "I understand. I will definitely take down Rong City within 3 days." Mietian knelt on the ground. "Kill all the humans inside and establish a new human race." In Rong City, 300 miles away from the valley, the repair of the fortifications was underway. Everyone was very cautious and completed the work in front of them very quickly. No one knew when the next wave of rebel army attacks would arrive. Now, They had to seize this opportunity to establish a new defense. All of you, hurry up. You can't be lazy at a time like this. Anyone who dares to be lazy will die if the enemy comes back. The people below were busy working, and the supervisor was coordinating with everyone above. At this moment, Yi Qilua happened to pass by. She led a group of generals and marshals and stopped here to watch the people below. General Zhao, at this rate, when will we be able to build a new defense system and repair the protective array below? City Lord, we've already mobilized all the outstanding array masters to repair the underground main disk. However, the damage below is too huge. It will take at least 2 days to completely repair it. Moreover, we'll build an even larger and faster protective array on this foundation. Good. What about these walls? I think they're almost done. City Lord, these city walls are being repaired very quickly. I believe it will be completely repaired in less than half a day. This time, we used the ores gathered from the black stone mine. They are several times stronger than before. I believe we will definitely have a better defense against such an attack. Yi Qilua nodded slightly and looked at the mottled stones below. These were all very precious ores. She had really spent a lot of money on them. Initially, they thought that everything was calm outside and that it was no longer a threat to them. Therefore, they did not expect to spend so much effort on defense. However, after this unexpected situation, they finally realized that no matter when, only by saving their lives could they have the possibility of constantly developing. This attack had only rung a bell for them. If not for Li Yuanqing's timely arrival, none of them would have survived. General Zhao, no matter what, you have to use the highest level of methods to strengthen our defense. I don't want to face such a desperate situation again. If the millions of humans in Rong City are all destroyed in my hands, I don't know how I'll be able to face my ancestors in the Netherworld. City Lord, don't worry. We've gathered all the factions and departments this time. We must use our greatest effort to build an absolute defense. At that time, even the huge attack yesterday could be resisted for more than 3 days. Yi Qilua was very satisfied with General Zhao's promise. This city wall was indeed a little too ancient. In the past, they had not had the time to strengthen it. This time, they could take this opportunity to strengthen the city wall and their defense. If they encountered such a thing in the future, they would have more experience. Then I'll have to trouble General Zhao and everyone else. The rise and fall of our human race is in your hands. City Lord, you flatter me. This is what we generals should do. Unknowingly, Li Yuanqing had been in Rong City for 3 days. In the past 3 days, he had been immersed in the huge library every day. He read many books and understood most of the past of the humans in the catacombs. For some reason, Li Yuanqing felt refreshed after reading these books, especially the moment he walked out of the library. He felt so comfortable all over. He opened his arms and took a deep breath of the fresh mountain air. Hall Master Wang followed behind him. Young Master Li, you've read most of the books in the library these few days. As for the First Elder's belongings, I'm afraid we can't organize them in a short period of time. We can only wait for a few more days. It was not that he did not want to give Li Yuanqing the relics left behind by Elder Zhao. It was just that he had to go through a series of complicated checks and internal checks before Li Yuanqing could observe them. However, being able to agree to this matter was enough to show their sincerity. Such an item had always been an extremely confidential item within their organization. They would not hand it over to others unless they had no choice. Although he did not find out where the key came from, he had gained a lot. Li Yuanqing was also satisfied with this trip. He had indeed stayed here for long enough. Thank you, Hall Master Wang. Young Master, what are you saying? Young Master Li is an honored guest of Rong City. If I show any disrespect, the citizens of Rong City will skin me alive. Hall Master Wang looked around. It was still early and it was still cold outside. There was no one around. If a large group of people had gathered outside a few days ago and wanted to see Li Yuanqing, they would have been blocked by him. Young Master, what do you plan to do now? Why don't I bring you around to take a look? Hall Master Wang smiled and suggested, Young Master, you might not know this, but ever since the City Lord took over, she has done a lot of construction in Rong City. Now, not only are there many training rooms, but there are also many large arenas that can allow everyone to increase their strength and train their actual combat skills. It's very practical. When Li Yuanqing heard that there was such an interesting thing, he was interested in going over to observe. Firstly, there was no mature system in Ping City. Although the human race was in charge now and everything was thriving, they could not establish a complete system for cultivation. These humans in Rong City must have the experience of their ancestors and would definitely have many methods worth learning. That sounds quite interesting. Hall Master Wang was originally just probing. When he heard that Li Yuanqing was really interested in this matter, he immediately spoke excitedly. Young master, you haven't seen our Rong City. Those healthy children are all energetic and abnormally hard working every day. Hall Master Wang introduced, that training room is a private place. There's nothing to see, but those combat arenas are very different. There are many people fighting every day. The scene is quite spectacular and worth seeing. Then please lead the way. Young Master Li, please. In order to protect Li Yuanqing's whereabouts from being leaked, the two of them even specially disguised themselves. Hall Master Wang put a bamboo hat on Li Yuanqing and covered his face tightly. He was also wearing a cloak that covered his entire body. No one could not see anything. After finishing all of this, Hall Master Wang nodded in satisfaction, as if he was very satisfied with his masterpiece. Young master, we don't have to be afraid of being recognized when we go out now. Hall Master Wang did not dress up specially. He just looked ordinary. Li Yuanqing did not know whether to laugh or cry when he saw how tightly wrapped he was. Seeing that Li Yuanqing seemed a little dissatisfied, Hall Master Wang hurriedly explained, Young Master Li, if you don't like it, take it off. I'll find 2 people to come over later and surround them as security. This is fine too. Li Yuanqing hurriedly stopped Hall Master Wang. Hall Master Wang, don't trouble yourself. Let's leave it at that. I think it's quite good. The two of them left the library and walked along the wide street of Rong City. The situation in Rong City was relatively unique. The entire city was separated by a mountain in the middle and was divided into the north and south. The south was more prosperous where the city lord manor was. Most of the facilities were built in the south half of the city. The north was more old-fashioned. Most of them were old-fashioned buildings, and there were even some that had thousands of years of history. The library that Li Yuanqing had been in for the past few days was in the northern half of the city. The northern half of the city was quieter and was suitable for such a building. Originally, this place was empty and uninhabited. It was also because of Li Yuanqing's arrival that it was lively. Many people were specially waiting here to see Li Yuanqing, this legendary immortal. Just as Li Yuanqing and Hall Master Wang left, they saw many people beside them. They had dug a cave in the forest and used it as a cave abode. They had been waiting here for a long time. Their perseverance was really tenacious. Young Master Li, look, everyone admires you very much. You're a famous person in this city now. I didn't lie to you, right? In just a few days, caves had been dug out on the mountain. They looked very comical and strange. However, he could indeed see everyone's intentions. Why didn't the city lord inform everyone and ask everyone to disperse? Don't let them wait here bitterly. Why did they have to go to such trouble? Hall Master Wang looked at Li Yuanqing helplessly and replied, Young Master Li, you're making it sound too easy. You don't know how many followers you have now. They insist on seeing you. If they don't see you, they'll refuse to leave no matter what. The city lord really has no choice. He had been careless this time and did not hide his identity well, which was why he ended up in such a situation. The two of them left the library one after another. They crossed the mountain and headed straight for the southern district. This southern district was the place Li Yuanqing had always seen. The streets here were wide and the buildings were bright. Many of them have been built recently. Compared to the situation in the northern half of the city, there seemed to be many more buildings. Moreover, there were several areas where cultivation rooms were specially built, as well as the martial arts arena that was filled with rings. There was also a complete mineral vein under Rong City. This phosphate mine was the lifeblood of these demons for so many years. However, they did not expect that they would decline so quickly. Before they could sell this piece and destroy it, it was occupied by humans. The cultivation area was close to the City Lord Manor. The City Lord Manor was originally built on the mineral vein. The training area was at the periphery of the cultivation area. There were some open-air arenas and many tall buildings. The open-air arenas were all built by the City Lord Manor. Most of them were provided for free, and the City Lord Manor carried out daily maintenance. These were also the choices of most people. At a glance, there were probably hundreds of small arenas at the side. Half of them were already occupied, and everyone was practicing their punches and kicks in full swing. Those large training rooms are all privately built, and the cost is relatively high. Generally speaking, ordinary cultivators use these small arenas on the periphery. The effect? They're all about the same. Of course, if their strength reaches a certain level, these small arenas will not be allowed to be used anymore. Around which level? Hall Master Wang replied very neatly. Generally speaking, only intra-level cultivators below the Grotto Heaven realm are allowed to cultivate here. Those who exceed this level are not allowed. Li Yuanqing nodded slightly. He had also briefly observed this place just now. The array formation here was not very strong. It was indeed enough to deal with Grotto Heaven realm cultivators, but it was probably not enough to deter those people with higher cultivation. The two of them casually arrived beside an arena and stopped to observe the competition between the two children. These two children's strengths were very ordinary. They could only be said to have just started and had yet to step into the Grotto Heaven realm. At this moment, their expressions were very solemn as they stared at each other, as if this was a life-and-death battle. "You little bastard, you asked for it. If you die here, no one will collect your corpse." One of the children had a stronger aura. He stared coldly at the little fellow opposite him and warned. This child's face was paler and his body was cleaner. His status was indeed higher than his opponent. As for the opponent in front of him, not only was the spiritual energy in his body very chaotic, but his body was also very thin. His spiritual energy could not compare to the other party, and even his physical strength was completely incomparable. This seemed to be a battle with no suspense. Most of the onlookers were here to watch the show and see what these two children could do. I say, are you two children still going to fight? You pretend to sign the life and death contract, but you didn't attack. What's the hurry? The two children are fighting here, and you're just watching the show. Why are you talking so much? What's wrong with that? This child should have been educated since she was young. He's dawdling here now. What will he look like when he grows up? How should I put it? Brother, you're right. Those who seize the initiative on the battlefield often can keep their lives. It's indeed not good to dawdle like this. These people were talking happily, so they looked to the side. A strange person had stood beside them at some point. He was wearing a big bamboo hat and a cloak that wrapped around his entire body. It was unknown why he was unpresentable or not. Hall Master Wang was clearly standing beside this person. Why was he here? Isn't this Hall Master Wang? Why didn't you stay in your library today? Why did you come outside? You don't have to chase people away today? Hearing his words, everyone turned around and realized that it was Hall Master Wang. It's really Hall Master Wang. I thought someone was bragging again. I didn't expect it to be true. The two of them had just arrived when they were immediately caught by someone. Hall Master Wang looked a little depressed. Li Yuanqing was standing beside him, so he could not say anything too harsh to these people. He could only answer strangely, "Why? Are you suddenly concerned about me? Aren't you all watching the battle in the arena?" The news of Hall Master Wang chasing them away had spread throughout Rong City. Everyone knew what he had done. The two of them, who were originally joining in the fun, did not expect that the main character would suddenly be surrounded in the middle and kept teasing him. The scene became a little awkward. That person smiled at Hall Master Wang and said, "When you chased my brother away from your library a few days ago, your words were very unpleasant. Why are you talking so softly like a little lady today?" Ha ha ha, he really looks like a little lady. Everyone laughed out loud when they heard the happy part. Hall Master Wang could not stand it anymore, but he could not be bothered to explain too much to them. He pulled Li Yuanqing and tried to walk out. Unexpectedly, Li Yuanqing stood there without moving. His gaze only landed on the two children on the stage. The two children still did not move. The stronger child was even more cautious. He had been observing his opponent and did not dare to attack rashly, afraid that he would be careless. The weaker child knew very well that there was still a huge gap between him and the other party if he fought head-on. Therefore, he stayed where he was and waited carefully, waiting for that opportunity. Both of them were waiting for the other to attack. They looked at each other, and fine beads of sweat appeared on their foreheads. Unknowingly, half an hour had passed, but no one was willing to make the first move. The few people outside looked at Hall Master Wang. They were quite pleased when they saw Hall Master Wang being left behind by his companion. They teased, "Hall Master Wang, where are you going? It's not easy for everyone to see you here. You're a famous person. Can't you let everyone look at you for a while longer? When you return to the library and secretly hide again, we won't be able to see you. Then how regretful will we be?" In the end, he was just a small hall master. He did not have any real power in his hands, which was why these fellows could laugh at him openly. However, Li Yuanqing did not seem to feel anything. He continued to stare at the stage. "Hurry up and attack." He suddenly spoke, clearly to the thin child standing on the right. The onlookers turned their heads back in confusion to look at the changes in the arena. At this moment, the moment Li Yuanqing said this, the thin child standing on the stage suddenly moved his feet. A short rod appeared in his hand, and he slashed at his opponent in front of him. On the other hand, his opponent seemed to be unable to react. He actually spaced out for a while and gave his opponent a perfect opportunity. He hurriedly raised the sword in his hand to block, but this sword was still too long for his body. Before he could adjust his angle, the thin man's short rod had already brushed past the side of his sword like an agile snake and was close to his body. The short rod hit the kid's chest solidly, causing him to take a few steps back with a muffled sound. He looked up at his opponent with an angry expression. "You cheated and ambushed me." After succeeding in his attack, the brat retreated and stared at his opponent cautiously. He said very calmly, "You were the one who was distracted first. You're indeed a wild kid. You don't have any upbringing at all. I saw that you hadn't attacked for a long time and gave you some time to breathe. Only then did I look elsewhere. However, I didn't expect you to ambush me and win by luck." The boy held his chest and looked at his opponent with a pale face. He had never expected this kid to be so despicable. He had actually launched a sneak attack in just a short while. He was really despicable. From time to time, his gaze would shift to the side, as if he was looking at the other corner. Li Yuanqing's gaze also landed on the corner, and he quietly looked at the man standing there. Everyone below the stage looked at the arena in surprise. All of them were extremely depressed. What's going on? Didn't that kid win for sure? Why did he lose for no reason? Sigh, this brat is really disappointing. He's really too stupid to lose. They complained gloomily while obediently handing over the bet they had just placed. The group of people came here to watch the two children compete. They were in the mood to care because they had placed their bets. One of the people surrounding Li Yuanqing suddenly sensed something and looked at him maliciously. "I say, why don't you know the rules? What does the competition between the two children on the stage have to do with you? How can you help?" The others came back to their senses and immediately surrounded Li Yuanqing and the others, looking at them with hostility. Li Yuanqing looked at them indifferently and replied, "If what I said is help, then you guys have been chattering below for a long time. There is no lack of obscenities, making the child on the stage unable to focus. Are you helping the other party again? You're so glib." Seeing that they could not win, they began to criticize. That's a normal discussion. There are two children on this stage. Anyone with a discerning eye can tell that the child on the left is much stronger. The child on the right is weak. How can he win? Li Yuanqing pointed at the child on the stage and said, "But hasn't this child already won? Those are all despicable methods." "That's right. It's just a trick." Li Yuanqing asked again. "In that case, you won't use such methods during the battle and give your lives to others for nothing?" The child who had fallen to the ground stood up and pointed at the skinny kid opposite him with a red face. "I'll give you another match. If you win, it's your win. Get down." A loud shout from below the stage frightened the child. His face, which had just turned red, turned pale again. He looked at the man below the stage indignantly. "Father, I didn't lose. He only won me by playing tricks." The man was tall, and his face was filled with a stern expression. Not to mention a child, even an 8-foot-tall burly man would be frightened by this person's appearance. The man ordered in an unquestionable tone, This young master has already made it very clear just now. If you're so distracted on the battlefield, your life will be given to others for nothing. But father, come down, you disgrace. With that, the man turned around and left, leaving the child alone with no intention of interfering. The child turned to look at Li Yuanqing, his eyes filled with hatred and grievance. It's all your fault. If you hadn't been spouting nonsense below, I wouldn't have lost. It's all your fault. He threw these two sentences down and hurriedly ran away, leaving the people below the stage chattering. The skinny child standing in the arena finally heaved a sigh of relief. He looked at Li Yuanqing gratefully and walked down the stage to him. If not for your reminder just now, I wouldn't have reacted. Thank you, young master. He carefully stared at the unhappy crowd and bowed deeply to Li Yuanqing. He was already filled with gratitude that someone could speak up for him among the onlookers. He had been preparing for that strike for a long time, waiting for his opponent to make a mistake. Although the other party was indeed in a daze just now, the outcome was still very good. Li Yuanqing lifted the child up and said to him in admiration, "You don't have to thank me. You're already prepared." His motive for saying that was not to give pointers, but to help this child strengthen his confidence. This child was so timid because he did not have confidence. When the onlookers saw that the matter had been settled, they felt bored and dispersed. As they walked, they muttered, "Today is really unlucky. I lost the 10 spirit stones I won just like that. I knew you couldn't trust these brats. I wanted to rely on them to earn some extra money. I didn't expect to lose so badly. Come on, everyone says that one has to admit defeat. Why aren't you guys willing to admit it at all?" Those who won were gloating at the side and showing off to everyone. Not long after, everyone forgot that Hall Master Wang was here and was not in the mood to continue teasing him. There was almost no one left beside the arena. The child hesitated at the side for a long time and stood rooted to the ground in a daze. No one knew what he was thinking. "Young Master Li, let's go somewhere else to take a look. I didn't expect my reputation to be bad and implicate you." Hall Master Wang looked at Li Yuanqing guiltily. He had indeed spoken rudely some time ago and had offended many people. He could understand why everyone hated him. However, saying this in front of Li Yuanqing lowered the quality of the entire Rong City. It was really inappropriate to leave a bad impression in young Master Li's heart. He was filled with guilt and wanted to apologize, but Li Yuanqing's attention did not seem to be on him at all. Instead, his eyes never left the child in front of him. Hall Master Wang was still muttering, "Young Master Li, in my opinion, we should go somewhere else to take a look. Perhaps we can find an arena in that high-level training room to play. They still have many VIPs inside. What do you think?" Li Yuanqing did not hear a single word from Hall Master Wang. He walked straight towards the boy. He patted the boy's shoulder gently. Only then did the boy react and look back at Li Yuanqing in confusion. "Young master, do you have any orders?" Li Yuanqing smiled and shook his head. "Where do you live and who is your teacher?" Hall Master Wang followed at the side, not knowing what Li Yuanqing was doing. The little boy felt that Li Yuanqing was a good person, so he replied obediently, "I live on this mountain. I don't have a teacher." "No teacher?" The little boy scratched his head in embarrassment, as if this was his fault. "Young master, I'm not talented. The masters think that I don't have any future, so they're unwilling to take me in as their disciple." Li Yuanqing looked at Hall Master Wang and asked, "Didn't City Lord Yi say that he would let all the children in Rong City obtain cultivation resources? Why doesn't this child have any guidance?" Hall Master Wang replied, "Young master, actually, the cultivation resources in Rong City are very limited. The City Lord can only try her best to provide for her old subordinates. As for the original humans in Rong City, they are barely provided. There are indeed many gaps. That means they did not care about these people anymore. Of course we have to care. Moreover, the City Lord is quite generous to them. They can go to the City Lord Manor every year to collect 2 spirit stones. This is already the limit of what the City Lord can do." Hall Master Wang felt a little wrong to be scolded like this and continued to explain. "Actually, you can't blame the City Lord. It's mainly because the parents of these children were all subordinates of the demons back then. Many of them were cruelly killed by the demons. It's already a blessing in disguise that a child without parents can have these spirit stones and survive. The child also heard the reproach in Li Yuanqing's words and hurriedly defended the city lord. Young master, don't blame the city lord. The city lord has already done her best for us. We have many children here who were helped by the city lord. Li Yuanqing looked at him and asked, then why did you argue with that little guy just now? The child pouted aggrievedly, looking like he was about to cry. I was digging for spiritual herbs on the mountain and found a rare lingji grass. However, he insisted that the lingji grass was his and wanted to take it away. The two of us argued and came here. I see. Then do you think this lingji grass belongs to him? The little boy hesitated for a long time and pursed his lips, but I spent a lot of effort digging it out. How would I know that someone would put it there for no reason? Hall Master Wang watched from the side and clicked his tongue. He said regretfully, there are many children like this in the city. Their lives are indeed a little tough. Li Yuanqing stretched out a hand and placed it in front of him. I wonder if you can show me that lingji grass? The little boy lowered his head and reached into his arms indignantly. He took out a small cloth bag and placed it in Li Yuanqing's hand. Li Yuanqing opened the cloth bag and saw a very small lingji grass lying quietly inside. It could only be considered the size of a toddler. These two children had fought over this thing just now. Li Yuanqing looked at it carefully for a while and said to the child, I think this lingji grass is very tender and its roots are shorter. It should be a plant planted by someone else. It doesn't look like it grew on the mountain. Hearing Li Yuanqing's words, the child's tears flowed down. He turned around and wanted to run. Since it's his, young master, just return it to him for me. Hall Master Wang looked at Li Yuanqing and scratched his head. He did not know what Li Yuanqing was planning. Young Master Li, what do you mean? Since the outcome of the competition has already been decided, there's no problem with him owning the lingji grass. Why do you have to snatch it from him? This child is already pitiful enough. Li Yuanqing did not answer his question and only asked, do you know where the father and son live just now? Hall Master Wang replied, I know about that. I have some impressions of the young father and son. Yang Tianqi's temper is very bad. He didn't have the ability back then and had lost, and now he's venting his bad temper on his son. His requirements for his son are extremely strict, and he often reprimands him strictly. That's easy. Where do the two of them live? They're living on the mountain. I'll give you a token. You can find it. Hall Master Wang took out a small empty token and engraved the traces of the path inside before handing it to Li Yuanqing. However, after carving it, he felt that something was wrong. Young Master Li, we're already here. Can't I just bring you over? Why do you have to go through so much trouble? I'll have to trouble you to make a long run to find that child and bring him to the residence of the young father and son. I'll wait for you there first. Li Yuanqing took the lead and went up the mountain. Although Hall Master Wang did not know what young Master Li was up to, he did not dare to neglect his orders. Initially, his impression was already bad. Now, it was time to show off. What kind of logic is this? Hall Master Wang could not figure out what young Master Li was thinking. In any case, it was not something he could figure out, so he quickly chased after the child. Li Yuanqing took the map given by Hall Master Wang and went up the mountain. He chose the path on it and found this house. Yang Tianqi was quite capable. The father and son's cave abode was located halfway up the mountain. He could be considered someone with some status here. Li Yuanqing was blocked by the restriction of the cave abode, but it also reminded the master inside that there were guests outside. Not long after, someone walked out of the fog and arrived in front of Li Yuanqing. It was the man he had seen outside the arena just now. The man looked at Li Yuanqing strangely, not knowing why he had come looking for him. And you are? Yang Tianqi looked at the person in front of him and recognized him at a glance. It was the man he had seen beside the arena just now. Just now, it was this man who spoke while the two children were fighting, causing a lot of controversy. Although he did not think that whether this guy spoke or not would affect the outcome of the entire battle, there were two children standing above after all. It was more or less inappropriate for an adult like him to point fingers below the stage.
Li Yuanqing.
We met in the arena just now. You haven't forgotten, right? Yang Tianqi felt strange when he saw this fellow come looking for him again. He looked at him and asked, I didn't forget. But why did you find this place? Could it be that there's something else? Li Yuanqing smiled and looked inside. Yang Tianqi saw that he seemed to be deliberately exploring his room. He turned his body and blocked most of Li Yuanqing's vision. He said to Li Yuanqing unhappily, "If you have anything to say it early. I still have something to do. I'm afraid I don't have time to entertain you. I'm here to look for the child just now. I heard from Hall Master Wang that you're his father." Yang Tianqi's face immediately fell. He looked at Li Yuanqing with a dark expression. "Young master, I don't know why you're looking for our little Ji." Li Yuanqing looked much more relaxed. "So he's called Little Ji. Actually, it's nothing. It's mainly because I saw the two children competing just now. This child looks worried and timid. I feel that if this continues, it will probably be very disadvantageous to his cultivation. So I wanted to come up and take a look." Humph. Yang Tianqi's expression was already ugly enough. After Li Yuanqing finished speaking, his expression was as dark as a piece of soil in a latrine. "There's no need for you to trouble yourself. I'll teach my son well. You can leave." As Yang Tianqi spoke, a thick fog rolled up behind him, wanting to activate the seal here again and reject Li Yuanqing. However, just as he turned around, he felt as if someone was still watching him from behind. He looked back in confusion and realized that for some reason, the fog was stuck there. Li Yuanqing was still standing outside the barrier and looking at him with a smile. "I think Mr. Yang should let me in." Yang Tianqi tried his best to push the barrier, but it seemed to be stuck here. No matter how hard he tried, there was no movement at all. It really made him anxious for no reason. After a fruitless attempt, he simply gave up. He looked at Li Yuanqing coldly and said, "Young master, I think I've already made it very clear that outsiders have no right to interfere in our family's matters. I advise you not to poke your nose into other people's business. Also, if you continue to stay here and don't leave, I won't be polite." Yang Tianqi looked at Li Yuanqing coldly, wanting to warn him again and chase him away. However, this fellow seemed to not care at all. He continued to stroll around leisurely and became even more impudent. "Mr. Yang, I don't have any ill intentions. I just want to come over and chat with you. I hope you can take some time out so that I could talk to you and your son. I think little Ji is a very talented child. How many more times do you want me to say it? I've made it clear to you. Please leave immediately." Yang Tianqi spoke very forcefully, but he realized that his body had moved away slightly. He was originally blocking in front of Li Yuanqing, but for some reason, he suddenly made way. Li Yuanqing even nodded at him very politely and walked straight in along a small path. Yang Tianqi stood at the side of the path and watched as this uninvited guest barged into his cave abode. However, he was helpless. His entire body seemed to have been petrified and could not move. "What are you doing? Get out." Even though Yang Tianqi kept warning him, Li Yuanqing did not stop at all. He passed him and walked into the cave abode. This small cave abode was quite unique, but the decorations inside were very simple and crude. A few simple pieces of furniture were casually placed there, and it was not needed in ordinary time. Most of the time, cultivators will cultivate in their cave abodes. As for the enjoyment outside the mortal world, it was mostly as little as possible. There were a total of 5 small rooms in the cave abode. Li Yuanqing took a simple look. The 2 small rooms in front were very clean and bright, and the few behind were filled with miscellaneous items. At this moment, Yang Tianqi finally regained his movements. He hurriedly rushed in from outside and saw Li Yuanqing enter his son's room. "You bastard! I'll fight you to the death." Yang Tianqi roared and widened his eyes in anger. He took out a golden spear. He brandished his golden spear and rushed into his son's room. He saw Li Yuanqing sitting beside Yang Ji, seemingly chatting with him. "You clearly have the absolute upper hand in terms of strength and stamina, but why are you always so timid in terms of offensive knowledge? If you were in actual combat, you would lose your life for no reason. Do you know that?" Yang Ji looked up at his father and sat there nervously, not daring to move. He did not know how this unfamiliar uncle had come in, but it sounded like his father was very angry. He had seen this guy just now. He was the man who helped that brat sheep below. Why was he at home now? "You bastard, if you've got anything, you should come at me. Why did you implicate the child? Let my son go." Yang Tianqi widened his eyes in anger and glared at Li Yuanqing, but there was nothing he could do. His son was now in Li Yuanqing's hands, and this guy's strength was unfathomable. If he killed him because he was unhappy, his son's life would be gone just like that. Li Yuanqing turned to look at him and sighed helplessly. I think your son is considered talented, but why is he so frightened by you for no reason? Haven't you ever considered him since he was young? You have the cheek to say that about me. You barged into my cave abode for no reason and still dare to point fingers at me and say that I scared my son. I think you're too arrogant. Mr. Yang, don't be nervous. I only came in to chat with you and your son. I don't have any ill intentions. If you really don't have any ill intentions, let my son go first. Everything else is fine. Yang Tianqi pointed behind him. I've already informed the guards outside. It won't be long before the City Lord Manor sends someone over. At that time, you won't be able to leave even if you want to. Do you know that the City Lord is very strict with bandits like you? If you're captured, you'll die. Although Yang Tianqi looked like a boorish man, he still had some rationality. He knew that he could not resist Li Yuanqing with his own strength. He might as well scare this guy away quickly and save his son's life first. If this person went crazy, his son would die young. Li Yuanqing was about to speak when a familiar voice suddenly came from outside the cave abode. When Yang Tianqi heard the commotion outside, he immediately became happy. He glared at Li Yuanqing and said, I'm warning you. It's not too late for you to regret it now. Hurry up and let my son go. I can tell the inspectors outside that it was all a misunderstanding. Otherwise, you won't be their match if we really fight. Li Yuanqing, on the other hand, looked indifferent because he had heard the voice just now. It was clearly Hall Master Wang who had rushed over with his men. Is there anyone inside? Why isn't there any movement? Hall Master Wang looked around outside and asked several times, but no one replied. He did not know where this family had gone. Just now, young Master Li had clearly said that he was here, but now, he was silent. Young Master Li? Hall Master Wang felt that it was strange, so he carefully brought the little beggar into Yang Tianqi's cave abode from this path. He looked around and arrived at Yang Ji's door. He happened to see Yang Tianqi's back. He seemed to be hostile to someone. Inspector, you came at the right time. Someone has forcefully barged into my cave abode. I hope you can take him down quickly. Yang Tianqi did not dare to relax his grip on the spear. He turned around and looked at Hall Master Wang. However, he was stunned when he saw who it was. He thought it was a team, but he did not expect to be a single person. Moreover, this guy looked old. At his age, could he still have the strength to take him down? It didn't seem right. Yang Tianqi's expression changed slightly, but he did not know what to do. He was already here, so he could only give up. Lord Envoy, the two of us will attack together. Let's take this person down first. This person is abnormally arrogant, and his attacks are quite strange. Moreover, his cultivation technique seems to be a little strange. Lord Envoy, you have to be careful later. Don't fall into his trap. Hall Master Wang put on a defensive posture and carefully leaned in. He was still thinking that some bandits had really come, but when he came in, he saw that this was not a bandit. This was clearly Li Yuanqing holding the little fellow just now. Young Master Li? Hall Master Wang heaved a sigh of relief. Why are you here? I was looking for you outside for a long time. I was thinking that you would wait for me outside. I didn't expect you to come in first. As soon as Hall Master Wang entered, he chatted with Li Yuanqing enthusiastically, stunning everyone. Yang Tianqi originally thought that his help had arrived, but he did not expect that they were clearly together. No wonder he looked so strange. No matter how he looked at it, he did not look like a proper inspector. Only then did Yang Tianqi recognize who this guy in front of him was. Wasn't this the Hall Master Wang of the library? Why was he here? Hall Master Wang, why did you come to my cave abode? Lord Yang, put down your weapon first. The person in front of me is not a bandit. This is the City Lord's esteemed guest. Young Master Li seemed to be a little rude just now. I'll apologize to you here. Yang Tianqi was actually an official in the City Lord Manor. Although Yang Tianqi still did not understand where Li Yuanqing came from, since Hall Master Wang had said so, he could only put down the weapon in his hand obediently. He lowered the spear for the time being and stared at the two of them in confusion. Hall Master Wang, are you saying that young Master Li doesn't have any ill intentions? Lord Yang, it's a misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. Young Master Li is really an esteemed guest. Lord Yang, take it as giving me face. Can you not mind? Yang Tianqi's expression softened a little, but he still did not look too good. If it's Hall Master Wang, I naturally have to give you face. However, this person's actions are strange. He forced his way in without any good intentions. Our family doesn't welcome him. Well, Hall Master Wang looked at Li Yuanqing and was in a dilemma. There shouldn't have been so much trouble. Why did Li Yuanqing barge in alone? He thought that Li Yuanqing was just chatting with him outside. Who knew that he would be so careless and barge into his cave abode? No wonder he was so angry. It would not be easy to appease his emotions in this situation. It made him a little troubled. Yes, in that case, young Master Li was at fault first. He shouldn't have barged into your house casually. Hall Master Wang was stuck in the middle. He could not say anything to any of them and could only barely find a way out for himself. Since things have come to this, and we're already here, why don't we hear what young Master Li has to say? I don't think young Master Li would be in such a hurry to barge in if it wasn't an urgent matter. Don't you think so? Seeing that Hall Master Wang could not do anything to this young man, Yang Tianqi restrained himself and did not plan to argue with Li Yuanqing anymore. However, no matter what, you can't barge into my house so rashly. This is really inappropriate. This time, it happened to be someone that Hall Master Wang knows. If not for the fact that you know him, I'm afraid I would really have to call the inspectors over to capture him. That's right. Since there's such a connection here, let's just forget about this matter. It's not a big deal. If it gets out of hand, it won't be appropriate to disturb the fellow Taoists beside us. Yang Tianqi turned around and looked at Li Yuanqing. In that case, can you release my son first? How long do you plan to control my son? Hall Master Wang hurriedly jogged over and pulled Yang Ji out of Li Yuanqing's arms. He even said with a smile, if young master has anything to say to this child, you should tell his father first. If you do this directly, I'm afraid it will be more or less inconvenient. Yang Ji jogged behind his father and secretly looked at Li Yuanqing. Only then did Yang Ji have the chance to carefully size up this strange uncle who had suddenly barged in. This uncle looked quite strange just now, but he didn't seem so strange now. Moreover, he looked more amiable. However, no matter what, it was precisely because this uncle suddenly spoke that the kid reacted. Otherwise, he would definitely not have been able to react when he suddenly did not notice. Yang Ji still thought that way. Yang Tianqi protected his son behind him and looked at Li Yuanqing solemnly. The little beggar stood in front of Hall Master Wang. He had left after winning just now, but he was suddenly called back by Hall Master Wang. No one knew what was going on. Li Yuanqing took out the lingji grass and handed it to Yang Ji. Yang Ji looked at Li Yuanqing strangely, not knowing what this uncle was up to. Hadn't he already lost this thing? Why was he giving it back now? I've already lost. This lingji grass is no longer mine. Yang Ji walked out from behind his father and turned to look at the little beggar. The little beggar was already looking at his lingji grass aggrievedly. He felt even worse when it was given to someone else. He turned his head away, not wanting to look. Let me ask you, did you really plant this lingji grass there to lure spirit beasts? Yang Ji replied with red eyes, how can it be fake? We brothers prepared this for a long time, and it was picked up by someone else for no reason. I even lost to him. Li Yuanqing placed the lingji grass in Yang Ji's hand. Since this is yours, I'll return it to you. Yang Ji was very puzzled. He glanced at the little beggar beside him. The little beggar was also unhappy, but he could only endure it obediently. But I lost. Li Yuanqing called the little beggar in front of him and took out a small bottle. He casually poured out a few pills from the bottle and stuffed them into the little beggar's mouth. The two little fellows were very curious as they smelled the very rich fragrance. The pill looked very powerful. However, this kind of pill was not something they could come into contact with now. It was something that only adults could have. These children usually only took a look, so they did not know how precious this pill was. However, Hall Master Wang and Yang Tianqi, who were standing at the side, were really dumbfounded. What was that thing that Li Yuanqing took out just now? Wasn't that the vitality reinforcement pill? That kind of pill was very expensive in the market. He just casually took it out and gave it to a little beggar he didn't know at all. The little beggar followed Li Yuanqing's instructions and swallowed the pills. After eating them, he felt a warmth in his stomach, so he smiled happily and politely knelt down to kowtow to Li Yuanqing. Li Yuanqing hurriedly pulled him up and made him stand beside him. Since that Lingji grass is yours, I must return it to you. However, since the little guy won the competition, there must be a reward. I'll pay for this reward this time, but in the future, you have to fight for it yourself. The little beggar looked at Li Yuanqing very seriously and nodded heavily. Young master, don't worry. I'll definitely work hard. Yang Tianqi, who had been talking a lot just now, was speechless. Li Yuanqing's actions had really dumbfounded them. Who was this person? Why was he so generous? They had never heard of such a person before. Although Rong City looked very big, it was actually only this big. If there were especially rich people here, everyone would know each other and have heard of them. They had probably seen them before. However, Li Yuanqing looked like a young and unknown kid. It was unknown where he came from, but he was so generous now. It was really confusing. The two of them did not say anything. Li Yuanqing asked the two children, I lack two children to follow me now. I see that the two of you are both talented and smart. I wonder if you're interested in following me out to travel? Li Yuanqing was followed by Hu Jujiu and the man-eating vine. However, he had to leave the huge Ping city to the two of them to manage. Now that the two of them were not by his side and the blood vine had disappeared for no reason, Li Yuanqing felt a little lonely. Now that he suddenly saw these two children, he inexplicably had the thought of nurturing these two children. He was filled with emotions. When the two children heard Li Yuanqing's words, they immediately hesitated. The two of them had never experienced this before and did not know what this big brother meant. What would happen if they followed him? It was hard to say what would happen. Seeing that the two children were very hesitant, Li Yuanqing hurriedly said, It's fine. If the two of you don't want to leave with me, it's fine. Think about it carefully. There's no hurry. We have plenty of time. Yang Ji bit his lip and looked at Li Yuanqing as if he had something to say. However, he looked at his father beside him and held back his words. On the other hand, Li Yuanqing originally felt that the little beggar had nothing to worry about. However, the little beggar hesitated for a long time and did not speak. He frowned and looked very conflicted. When Hall Master Wang heard Li Yuanqing's reaction, he was extremely anxious. He hurriedly walked to the little beggar's side and urged him, My little ancestor, do you know what kind of person this person in front of you is? It's your fortune that young Master Li can make such a request with you. Why are you hesitating? After thinking for a long time, the little beggar shook his head regretfully and said to Li Yuanqing apologetically, Young master, thank you very much for giving me these pills. If I have the chance in the future, I will definitely try my best to compensate you. However, I still have my own things to do and can't leave Rong City. Hall Master Wang hurriedly hugged the little beggar and said to him carefully, My little ancestor, why can't you understand? As long as you can follow young Master Li, you will be able to get anything you want in the future. How can you be so hesitant now? However, the little beggar was very persistent. He gritted his teeth and looked at Hall Master Wang as he replied, I can't leave. After I leave, no one will take care of Grandma Wang. She went crazy from cultivating, and most of her meridians are crippled. If I leave, she will definitely be very sad. Grandma Wang. Hall Master Wang hurriedly explained, Young master, you don't know. This kid lives with Grandma Wang and has been here for so many years. The little beggar looked at Li Yuanqing gratefully and said, Thank you very much for remembering me, but I'm going back now. After the little beggar finished speaking, he jogged out of Yang Tianqi's cave abode. This decision was very painful for him. There were clear benefits in front of him. This young master was clearly extraordinary. If he could follow him, it would definitely be much more comfortable than living in that narrow cave abode. However, he could not let go and let Grandma Wang stay here alone. Hall Master Wang wanted to follow and find the little beggar, but Li Yuanqing stopped him. Instead of being anxious, he looked at Yang Ji. After Yang Ji noticed Li Yuanqing's gaze, he hurriedly hid behind his father and shook his head carefully. What about you? Why again? I want to follow father. I'm not going anywhere. Li Yuanqing stood up with a smile. He did not seem to be disappointed that he did not receive these two disciples. Does that mean you've both made your decisions? Yang Ji looked very indignant. He nodded heavily and closed his eyes. Young master, please leave. I will stay by father's side. Hall Master Wang, let's go then. It seems like we really came at the wrong time today. As Li Yuanqing spoke, he really left with Hall Master Wang without any intention of fighting for it. When Hall Master Wang arrived at the foot of the mountain, he was still puzzled. Looking at the people coming and going beside him, Hall Master Wang finally looked at Li Yuanqing and explained, Young master, I don't think it's a bad thing. Although these two children are indeed talented, there are many talented children in this city. There's no need to be obsessed with the two of them. I'll help young master find two more children. Li Yuanqing smiled and waved his hand. There's no need. I already have an idea. Then what do you mean, young master? What does Yang Tianqi do? What's his character like? He's actually the instructor of the guards. He's considered an official in the city lord manor, but he's not famous. He can only be said to be able to obtain a cultivation resource. He doesn't look like he has a good temper. Young master, you saw it just now. His temper is like this. He always does whatever he wants and is very persistent. Otherwise, he wouldn't still be a small instructor for so many years. Those people who were in the same batch as him have long been promoted to captains. Some of them even went to be deputies for the generals above. However, he's still in this position. You should be able to understand. Hall Master Wang knew a lot about this person. After he said so much, Li Yuanqing did not seem to have any intention of giving up. Instead, he was thinking about something with relish. Hall Master Wang carefully asked, Young master, I have something to say. I wonder if it's appropriate. If you have something to say, say it. I thought that Yang Ji was a little lacking. Although Yang Tianqi has already spent a lot of effort to teach his son to be a talent, this child still can't advance his cultivation and is still so timid after wasting so many resources. He's useless. Li Yuanqing looked at Hall Master Wang with interest. Hall Master Wang thought that Li Yuanqing had listened to his suggestion and became more and more enthusiastic. He glanced in the direction of Yang Tianqi's cave abode behind him and said to Li Yuanqing, Actually, everyone knows Yang Tianqi's current situation. His ranks won't go up since he has such a temper. It's already not bad that his salary is enough for him to cultivate alone, but he still has to raise such a son. His cultivation level has fallen, and his son's cultivation level can't advance. No one can do anything to him. Hall Master Wang thought that his words would be able to persuade Li Yuanqing. However, he did not expect Li Yuanqing to suddenly smile and deny his judgment. I think this child's talent is very good. It's just that he has gone astray and is temporarily isolated, so he hasn't improved for a long time. If this continues, this child's life will be ruined. Young master, do you mean that Yang Tianqi's training has instead led his son astray? Li Yuanqing did not answer his question. He only found a direction and rushed over. Hall Master Wang followed in confusion. After crossing most of the mountain, he noticed that Li Yuanqing had followed the little beggar back to the foot of the mountain on the other side. At the foot of the mountain in the northern city region, there was a very dense cave area. There were no restrictions here. These cave abodes were all open. Most of them were simple and covered half with some stones. After Li Yuanqing arrived, he flew towards a cave. He landed in front of the cave abode and glanced inside. Is anyone there? Not long after, the little beggar ran out of the cave abode. He looked at Li Yuanqing in surprise, not knowing why Li Yuanqing would chase him to this place. Young master, why are you here? The little beggar was a little surprised, but it was a pity. He looked at Li Yuanqing and said awkwardly, Young master, I'm very sorry. I don't know why you like me either. It's just that I'm not talented to begin with, so I was selected by those adults. Moreover, I don't want to go anywhere else now. Young master, you should find someone else. Li Yuanqing patted his head and said to him, I'm not here for that matter. Do you think Grandma Wang is feeling very unwell now? Can you let me take a look? Young master, do you know medicine? The little beggar looked up happily, but he said carefully, But those doctors all said that Grandma is too sick. If she wants to be treated, it will cost a lot of spirit stones. Li Yuanqing replied, It's fine. I'm just a dabbler. It won't cost much spirit stones to treat illnesses and save people. I won't especially trouble you, right? No, you can lead the way. Young master, please come in. Although this small cave abode was very simple, the little fellow was very polite. He even bowed very formally and invited Li Yuanqing. There were a few fluorite stones embedded in the simple cave abode. They shone weakly on an old lady lying on a pile of grass.